So hello, welcome to Sjcartier Ltd Convos. And in my introduction video, I said I would start off with my Sjcartier Ltd Convos with a little introduction into who I am, my business, and kind of how I started my business, and the resources I have used to actually grow my business and find products for my business as well as for myself as a collector and a reseller. So today I will actually be starting with auctions. So I actually thought I'd do no more than 5 positives and no more than 5 negatives for each thing that I will be talking about over the next few days. And they will be auctions, Facebook Marketplace, charity shops, car boots, and whatnot marketplace. So today I will actually be starting with auctions, and I would like to say these is my experience in buying and selling on these platforms. So I would like you to understand this is how I experienced it, and it may not be the same for you, or it may be better or worse for you. So, as an example for that, some of my negatives I talk about me not being able to travel because I actually don't drive. So, when it comes to auctions, it was always better for me to go online because it wasn't as many auctions local to me. With regards car boots, I had to go more to local car boots, and I wasn't able to buy as much because I don't have a car boot to put my stock in. So anything that I bought at car boots was carried in a backpack, in bags, and up on public transport, whether train or walking, actually half an hour, 45 minutes to my home address. So yeah, some of the positives are and negatives are more suited to me and my business, but some of them may be interesting to you, may be encouraging for you, or may actually be something you may want to consider or not consider. So today, first of all, as I said, it will be auctions. So with the positives for auctions, I will say, first of all, it's the rare items from unknown locations. So it's the fun fact that you can find anything at an auction, because things at auctions come from a variety of locations. They come from people that are doing house clearances, it comes from people who are moving house, it comes from people who are actually collectors or resellers who actually have a load of stock that they feel may be more suited to an auction. It comes to even police auctions where people have lost things due to debts or had things taken because they owe money. And these are high-end products that now are just on the market in an auction for anybody to actually bid on. So it's the fact you never know what you could find, and some of the items are a lot more particular, I'd say, because more than likely a lot of them could end up in another secondary marketplace if the people with them were encouraged to do that, if that makes sense. So people believe they may get more at auction than they would at a secondary marketplace sometimes. Also, some people don't have the time to do it. So yeah, variety. A variety items from random locations, and it could be very rare. You also have the opportunity to grab a bargain. So yes, you may sometimes overpay at auctions, but you also can underpay a lot of prices at auctions, and that is due to whether the time, whether the auction house, whether could be anything. Like you could today just be you wanting the item, and tomorrow it could be you and four of the people wanting the item. So it's a very varied opportunity of getting bargains, and sometimes maybe paying a bit more because you see the item there. Another good positive thing I would say is the excitement. So for me, as I said in the first video, I started off loving antiques and vintage and buying and reselling due to some of the shows I used to watch. And due to some of these shows, a lot of them were focused a lot around auction houses. So I actually enjoyed watching them of people trying to get an item for cheaper, or slow bidding, fast bidding, trying to come in harsh, deep, so going over the top of someone, trying to bully them. I quite enjoyed the thrill of that because it's all about excitement, and it's all about what's in the eye of the beholder, let's say. So I may think something's worth £1,000, so I may think it's worth five. I may think something worth £2,000, and then they actually think the other item's worth £1,000. So it's all in the eye of the beholder. So it's all about the love, and you never know what the other person is actually going to bid for, and you never know actually whether they love it more than you, or whether that would be your last bid, or it would be your next bid, or just the excitement that, you know what, I actually want it now. I don't want them to get it. So yeah, it was a bit exciting. Um, Another positive thing that I say for me when I started at online auctions was the fact it was online and a lot of items were delivered to my home address. I made the mistake in one of my first few auctions where I actually didn't check the terms and conditions, and they weren't able to ship the items, and I had to travel, I think it was to Kent, for like an hour in the taxi with my partner, and collect the items and travel back in the taxi back to our home address, because it just seemed like it was a cheaper option than having to pay them to package and then find someone to carry the items back. So yeah, the positive is that you can get these items shipped to your address if you check the terms and conditions. Um, the negatives now for me is also the shipping. So the actual reason I stopped going to certain online auctions was because the shipping wasn't on point to how I expected it. So although some of the auctions would put in their terms and conditions, they're able to facilitate getting your items packaged and shipped to you within a certain day if you pay as fast as possible. I found that on a lot of these occasions I was paying immediately, and whereas they want you to pay within 48 hours, they would then take up to 14 days to ship my items. And then it felt like when you was asking about your items being shipped, it seemed like it was you in the wrong because you're asking for your items to be shipped. So yeah, it was always a bit of an issue with that, and because it wasn't their platform, it was always resorted to the main platform, and they said they had no um, in between you and the auctions, and they wasn't not able to facilitate to tell them to ship the items or facilitate any refunds or any kind of dispute between the buyer and the auctions. So that was a negative reason for me, and because I couldn't trust the people to trust get my items to me, it just felt very off for me. So yeah, that was one of the negatives. Another negative I'd say from the auction house is if you're not able to get to the auction house and view the items, you never really know what condition these items will arrive to until you actually have them in your hand. So I have to say this is a negative and a positive. So some items may not actually look as luxurious as they do in person, but then I will find on a lot of occasions it will more than likely be a upset on the condition when it actually arrives, whether it's even just the way they package the item sometimes. And the final negative I'd say with the auction houses is actually the communication between, for me personally, the communication for me as a young black entrepreneur to these owners of certain auction houses, whether it was for their service or whether it's for me just inquiring about a payment or inquiring about even an item. So yeah, I didn't find the communication was very straightforward. I didn't find it was very welcoming in a lot of occasions, and I found it wasn't very, yeah, it's mostly welcoming, I'd say. Yeah, the communication wasn't welcoming. So yeah, that was one of the negatives I'd say as well. So yeah, the positives for today on a little roundup is the auctions. Positives I'd say are you can find rare items from unknown locations, and you never know the price you could actually get them for. You could get them for a very good bargain. If you are checking the terms, conditions, and the auction house is living up to what they say, you are able to get these items delivered to your address in a quite speedily time, and as well as it's quite a fun way to buy and resell, whether for your own collection or to resell. The negatives is sometimes the shipping isn't on point to you, and some auction houses aren't able to facilitate the actual shipping to you. The condition of some of the items may not be always as expected, although on the flip side, you may actually find some of your items look a lot better than expected. And also, the final negative is the communication between auction houses and young entrepreneurs that I found, like myself. So maybe for you, it may be a bit different. Maybe you have a different relationship that you could get with them. But for me, I found communication wasn't always straightforward and honest, and not to the level I required. So yes, I hope you enjoyed this little introduction into some of the positives and negatives for me buying